All right, welcome to the 12-Cent Treehouse, back live on several platforms. I'm Sean McLaughlin, writer-producer, also all-around man about town. And with me, as always, is the lovely and talented Jeff Johnson.
Hey, everybody.
Scott Collins.
Hey-o.
Who really likes Star Wars and has worked on Star Wars, so that's a twofer. And the even more lovely and talented Stephen B. Jones.
Still only 12 cents.
Yeah, I love the fact that Jones has really leaned into the avant-garde compositions.
Steve will be coming to us today as a Batman villain from the 1966 series with the Dutch actors.
Yeah, or
are you going to be the
avant-garde
Mad Hatter?
70 filmmaker?
Yeah, the Mad Hatter or King Tut, Steve.
Yeah,
I was always more of an egghead man myself. With Vincent Price.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And if you haven't read Vincent Price's daughter's biography of him, everybody should read that. It is the craziest shit you've ever read in your life.
Oh wow,
I bet it
excellent.
is.
Yeah,
Got to put that on my list.
So what are we going to talk about today, guys? Are we going to
also
go on?
I think this is reasonably unlikely, and I know that we are not doing the call-in aspect of our show yet, but just to play when we watch this later, in the future, we're in the middle of the World Cup 2026, and I have not watched and don't know the results of the Brazil-Norway game right now. So if the three of you guys could not mention it, and if none of our callers could call in and mention it after the show, I'm very much looking forward to watching it recorded.
Well,
Yeah, because I was
anything about my love of Premier League and my also who I hate in Premier League, I am oddly happy about the results of that game.
That's spoilery, dude.
No, I didn't tell you anything. I didn't tell you. No, I did not tell you.
Yeah, I know you. Okay, look, you can't give clues to this brain.
how's that a clue? He
we
didn't
know
pick a
that.
team. Wait, he didn't pick a team. He just said he
told me
liked.
that he just told me that Norway won, but that's fine. Look, I'm happy about that
How did I tell you that?
because of your discussion.
He's
of
reading
players
into all the history he knows about you.
Yeah.
It's
No,
racist.
I hate Holland. I hate that fucking soccer robot.
I don't
care
hate
how
him.
many goals he scores.
I don't hate. Well, look. People are not wanting to hear us talk about soccer. There's literally a billion other podcasts that they can hear far more cogent analysis of football
It's
soccer.
the most popular game in the world. It's a beautiful
Sure.
game.
You're damn right.
The surgeon who put my pacemaker in said to me, "Do you like soccer?" And I said, "I follow Premier League." That was all we talked about while he's operating on me.
I love it.
Wow.
Also, the All Blacks beat France in rugby on Saturday night, so we're excited about that. So there's a lot of good news in the world of sports today.
I watched a lot of Cirque du Soleil in the park yesterday.
Yeah.
That's a sport.
Did you
Jeff
really?
also has always been. Jeff's been a big fan of competitive Fraggle Rock, which I'm also
Yeah.
a fan of too.
I was out on a walk yesterday in Ashland. There was like a 4th of July parade, and in the park they had the performing arts.
That's Ashland, Oregon, for our new readers.
Yeah. And they had a really amazing, they were demonstrating the school, which is the aerial school in Ashland, and they had a bunch of people do stuff. Yeah, it was amazing. They had a huge thing set up so they could do the scarves, the ropes, the various trapeze type things. Very impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
For our interested listeners that are also wanting to know where to send the bombs.
Yes.
Jeff,
Thanks, Steve. Why don't you just give them my home address next time?
Jeff and Scott live in Southern Oregon.
Scott.
Steve.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's just a region. Sean lives somewhere on the east coast of the United States, as far as I know. And
I live in Western New York State.
And I am somewhere in the southern hemisphere, and that's as far as we're going to go. So,
great.
Steve's a Tasmanian.
Yeah, he wishes. All right, so what do you guys want to talk
Tasmania
about
is Hobart.
from personal information and sports?
Well, did we want to continue with the reworking Flash Gordon, or do we want to take off like that in a new way and maybe talk about how you? Do we want to continue with the Flash Gordon stuff?
Well, I thought it'd be interesting if we got Steve and Scott's ideas on how to revamp Flash, and maybe
This
It's
is my
like-
German electric pencil sharpener, guys.
sure.
Yeah, jawohl,
Right next to the
mein
speaker. When I was so I had a friend when I was in the Army in the reserves, but back in the 80s, a friend of mine was desperately trying to be a stand-up comedian, and so he would go and do stuff. And he said that whenever he was at this one club,
Muted.
and it was common knowledge that if you didn't like the stand-up comedian, you would order a margarita. And so, because they would turn the blenders on to make that margarita. So you always knew when you were bombing, when there was a rush of margarita orders.
That's
Thank
perfect.
you. Yeah. He was, what's funny is like, he was really funny, but I guess he was great in a group and just hanging out, but he could never translate that to the stage. Yeah.
Stage presence, yeah.
Yeah, difficult. So I'd love to get so Sean and I hashed out I think a pretty good framework for what to do with a Flash Gordon update and revamp.
Can you give us a synopsis of that?
Sean, you have a quick one?
Yeah, he's about 50 years old. He's been back on Earth for 20 years. He goes back to Mongo, and the revolution that he pretty much ramrodded has now fallen apart, and Mongo is balkanized again, with Aura sort of taking over Ming's place, and Baron is dead, right? And then somebody else has taken over Arborea, and there's a bunch of factions now. Instead of like all being afraid of Ming, they're all trying to take over.
Right, be kind of replace Ming.
And
Cool.
Flash has been almost deified in the time he's been gone, so nobody believes he's really Flash Gordon, and he's also in his 50s, and he can't do things the way he used to. But that doesn't mean he's out of the game. He has to learn to be more of a general and maybe use the ray gun a little bit less than the sword.
Right. So yeah,
Cool. I like it. When do we start?
Yeah. Well, that's
Well, look,
I-
we know the kids are dying for more stories about 50-year-old men who can't.
well. I mean,
quite-
that's one of
That's
the
what
questions.
we
Is
were
like, how
talking
do
about.
you? Yeah. How do you take something like this, make it sort of acceptable and believable, but still also make it interesting for not everyone who's staring, retirement in the face? Like,
But when we were kids, the heroes were all dads. Like the original Superman TV show and Batman, they were like dad characters. They weren't
Right.
Yeah.
weren't kids. So it's kind of just moving back in that. And also, comics fandom is pretty much our age.
right. If they're older for sure. And I mean, one of my all-time favorite, Captain America, like I loved him when I was a kid, he was in his 30s.
Yeah.
Like, it's not.
Well, just before we go any further, I have to just realize and pay homage to the fact that Sean's wearing a Danny Rand shirt. I didn't notice that before, so well done.
Oh, nice.
I'm jealous
Was it-
of that shirt.
Was a gift from young Connor McLaughlin, who turned 27 years old today.
There you
Oh,
go.
and Scott is representing our pal Chris Schenk and his fine work.
With the Strangey Strange.
I was
Oh,
wearing
wow,
that shirt
very
just the other day. Yeah. It's a good book.
Ta-da! Go find it.
Other anniversary for today, I'll just point this out because I feel like I have to say it, is that I had my last drink 40 years ago today.
Oh,
And if I hadn't done
congratulations.
that, I never would have known any of you guys because I would have been dead.
Oh yeah. That's a hell of a commitment. Congratulations.
Thank you. But I think the older hero, I think that's something that is worth looking at, as opposed to trying to give a Flash his son. Because every time they try and do that, like that, the sci-fi Flash Gordon series where it's a kid jumping through a portal, or the cartoon where it's a kid on a skateboard, it just never works. It's kind of like you're getting weak sauce of that. So we were
Well, I
trying to come
wonder-
up with a different way to keep it relevant.
Well, I think it's Sean when you bring up when I think about original Star Trek or the Wild Wild West or Batman 66 or some of the stuff like Sean's a little bit older than us, so he watched some of that stuff live, and me and Scott and Jeff watched all of it in reruns just a few years later or whatever. But that was what we were exposed to in the early 70s, and it's interesting that it makes me, I'm just thinking maybe you can think of, but it feels like, I guess Star Wars might have been the beginning of putting someone that was like more like us as the protagonist, that that Han Solo is in Star Wars, but he is not the main character. It's
right.
like we're following the young novice that's out there. And that feels like it's a little bit of a shift of what you're describing, where if characters were initially, and then we clearly, with the success of Star Wars, we got a lot more of that with Marty McFly and everyone else. I mean, and really just like the 80s were the 80s were really all about teen protagonists, I think. And maybe that's the influence of Star Wars in a way, even when it wasn't sci-fi or adventure,
I mean, Star Trek, first of all, I remember that it was on TV, but I was not allowed to stay up that late to watch it.
Wow.
But Star Trek, they made a big deal about Kirk becoming a starship captain at 35 and being the youngest one ever.
Right.
Which now seems like so quaint that was an idea.
Right.
But then they still got Chekhov with season 2, and he was supposed to be the young monkeys looking kind of kid.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Which is funny because he wasn't anywhere near 18 or whatever he was at the time.
Let's get young hot Walter Koenig to get the girls in the door.
Right.
And we'll have him play a commie at the height of the Cold War, who's always insisting that Russia invented everything. That's a great idea.
Right.
I think that was Roddenberry's like FU to the TV studio that was going like, no, we need to put a kid on the stage. He's got to be on there with everybody else. He's like, fine, we'll make him a Russian.
Right. But I think Steve brings up a really good point, though. Like, if we want to, because as Sean and I were talking about it, we were talking about how do you make something that you're working on interesting to you, and how do you make it relatable. And the way to make something relatable is to definitely
use hard
not
drugs.
make it autobiographical, but make it about whatever human struggle you understand and can relate to. But Steve's right. Like, what kind of what's the audience, right? Like, if we're aiming, like, should audience be sort of a prerequisite? Like, oh, we know who we're aiming this at. Like, is this something we should do?
Two thoughts on that. One is it becomes sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like Steve was talking about with those movies, is like their research told them that the main audience for movies was 15 to 25 years old. So everybody who had to be in movies was 15 to 25 years old. And then every once in a while they would release something like First Wives Club, and they would go, oh, this is amazing. Why are these people never come to the movies? Why are they coming to the movies now? Well, it's because you made a movie for them.
Right.
And the second part is, are we there to pander to, are we there to meet their expectations, or are we there to shatter their expectations and do something better? I mean, if we were casting a Flash Gordon movie of an older Flash Gordon, Brad Pitt is 60 years old.
Right.
Tom Cruise he's like my age, isn't he? So
yeah, but he's having the stem cells taken from aliens, so he's going to live forever. He's got a direct line.
But my kid, if you ask Connor like about Mission Impossible movies, he says when Tom Cruise stops making Mission Impossible movies, I stop going to Mission Impossible movies. So he doesn't give a shit that the lead is his dad's age.
Right. So like one of my favorite comic books in this genre was Warlord when I was a kid. He's probably in his 40s or 50s, even he has white hair. Yeah. So back in my day, as a kid, I thought he was 100. Like, I didn't know how old that man. Right.
Well, I mean, I do think older Flash Gordon, I think that did Mark Millar write it? And there's I know Goran Parlov did the art, but there's a book
That's
called
Starlight.
It's like Flash Gordon, but it's not.
It's
Yeah,
like
well,
Flash Gordon and Starlight. But yes, no, it's very similar.
It's like it's like Flash Gordon and like how Invincible is like Superman. Like
Mhm.
Yes.
it's doing its own thing, but it couldn't exist without the inspiration. You know, it's clearly inspired by that. But it seems like it's
Absolutely.
from what I remember. I haven't read that book extensively, but from what I did read about it, it seemed like it was about an older Flash returning to.
It is, and so there's inevitable comparisons with it because it's it's an older hero who once was great, but like I think that we went in a different direction than they went in.
Well, look, it's an interesting thing about ageism, right? Because you want to give your characters flaws. Like characters need to, like for the most part, the best stories, characters have got your heroes have some things that they're fighting against, some impediments, but then it's funny, just kind of the ageism thing or something like that. Like, both Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, like I'm not opposed to the idea of doing, older Indiana Jones when he, when he's trying to do, but it is interesting that there are some people don't want to. Clearly, some people don't want to see those stories that much. Like I recently hung out with a younger creator that just busted on me for being older. Where it was just like, just like kind of low hanging fruit of giving one shit, and it's a funny phenomenon because it's an interesting thing of like, obviously it does not compare to like racism, but similarly, like with racism, sexism, ableism or something like that, like if you're older, there's not anything you can do about it. Just like you can't control if you're born a certain ethnicity or a certain gender or a certain different thing. So there's definitely something kind of low hanging fruit about picking on things about people that they have no control over,
Well, and it's also this meme that's been going around that there's a whole class of people now who just exist. They're afraid to like anything because they're afraid of getting made fun of. So they just pick everything apart, and nobody just sits down to enjoy something anymore.
Right.
Good. By the way, Scott, I'm just watching you draw, and you are a freak of nature in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's a good Flash. I
am kind of like shooting for the home field right now.
Right.
Not drawing a character I haven't drawn 1,000 times before, but
you got a pretty good handle on him. So Jones, how would you address, say, the framework of let's have him come back as an old man and deal with some of the changing, almost a sort of a commentary on the changing system, like the cause and effects of your own actions. How do you deal with something that you did in your youth as an old, like all those things, which are interesting subtext for the people making the book and some of the people reading the book. But how would you open it up to maybe
we're doing it as a comic, right?
Yeah.
So the first thought that I think of to kind of play with some of these expectations, I guess, or something, my first thought, like say if we're going with everything that you said, so I can't change anything you guys have come up with. I can only yes and it and alter it, right? Which,
by the way, should we cover that real fast for anyone? Not that anyone cares.
Yeah, no, explain that.
So
yes, and in improv, I'll take it because I was at Second City. Yes, and is that you never?
No, you weren't.
You never negate what your scene partner is doing. You only add to it.
Yeah. Right. So that way you keep stuff moving, as opposed to being like, no, I don't like that he's an old man. Like, okay, well,
yeah. So if you're
that doesn't help.
If you're improvising in a scene, then it's like every single thing that everyone is saying, like that now becomes the reality that you're defining.
Right.
And so you have to keep adding to it. And rather, and that speaks, that kind of speaks to what Sean is saying now too, this class of people that right now that just want to, it's like the thing I don't like about Alex Ross is he's not cartoony enough. It's like, well, by definition, the guy is using photo reference and trying to draw photorealistically. You're critiquing him for the very choice that he's making. You know, like, or that Bruce Timm, he's too cartoony. Yeah, he's a goddamn cartoonist. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So,
Yeah.
And it's not just I don't care for that. People are like, that's bad. That sucks. I had somebody tell me, you know, I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark again, and it just doesn't hold up. And I'm like, well, I don't agree with you. Secondly, you're surprised that a 40-year-old kids movie doesn't meet your expectations anymore.
Also, you don't need, that guy just told you, you never need to talk to me again. Right? Like that's
doesn't hold up. You know what?
That's,
you know what's not holding
that's
up?
bananas.
Your pants. All right. So my first thought with trying to yes and what you guys came up with, but then maybe go explore some of the themes you're discussing, but then go in some different ways and avoid some of the stuff so that we're not overlapping with Starlight, which, by the way, I hope is the name of that thing. Maybe we should look it up so we're not.
I talked about it. Starlight.
Jeff
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So
it's real great. By the way, it's great. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Absolutely. Great writer, incredible artist.
Yeah.
So my first thought would be, you've got Flash, because we're going to Mongo, we're going to science fiction land, we're going to whatever. So at some point early on in the story, I'd do something where he's able to he goes through the Rejuvenator or something. And so it's like, so now when he's gone to Mongo, he's young. And then but there, you know, something I always loved about Adam Strange was that back and forth aspect or something like that. And so it'd be interesting if Flash could be young in Mongo, but has to be the age that he is back on Earth or something. But so, you know, it's like, it would allow you to explore. I mean, for one thing, for an older audience, that is a huge level of, wouldn't it be lovely if, you know, just like if you're
Fantasy story. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Wish fulfillment.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're getting Tom Cruise's, you know, alien genes injected.
Right.
I'd like to go through the Rejuvenator, but then it also makes me feel like then at some point there might be something about where then are you going to make a hero's choice and sacrifice your renewed youth to save Mongo, if that's what you end up kind of having to build toward, or if there's a certain point where you've got to, you know, give up the Rejuvenator for whatever reason. But I feel like that would allow you, then you're doing a story about someone that's mentally old but not physically old, to get your then you're possibly roping in your ageists, but you get to explore a lot of those same themes. I don't know. That would be my first thought of kind of how to have your cake and eat it too.
What about things like Wrath of Khan, where they continually point out that Kirk is aged and not aged well, and that he's made shitty choices?
I mean,
the only trick to me about a bunch of those things is that was a new concept at the time for us to deal with. And we were aging as a fandom. We were the first level of that fandom that had gotten to that age. It was like the new college kids that were coming in Marvel in the 60s. Those Marvel comic books were supposedly really in tune and somewhat with the college age stuff that Stan would even do tours of colleges. And that was a new thing for fandom and everything at that time. I think we had a bunch of that in the 80s and then to the 90s. A bunch of our childhood heroes grow up and get old, and it was this new thing what do we do with this? Batman's old, he can't do this thing anymore, what are we going to do? But that's the trick of it all. It's been done.
Off Wrath of Khan, you know.
Say what?
Frank Miller was just ripping off Wrath of Khan. A lot of people, not enough people talk about that.
I mean, he does talk about it in a bunch of interviews, right? I mean, he does mention
Does he? I've never heard that.
No. But I do think that's an interesting.
I thought it was just about Frank getting mugged. I thought that's what.
That's my understanding. And
that he said he was now older than Batman was supposed to be. He was 40 years old or whatever, and he's like, oh my God, and Batman has to be always 30, 35, whatever. But
I do like that idea of perhaps if you wanted to have him be young for some of the stuff to add that appeal and to give him like sort of that youthful vigor. I think it might be a really interesting if the Rejuvenator didn't actually fully work on him, like it was temporary because he's an Earth person. And so he's only young. It's kind of like Our Man is only strong for an
Yep.
hour. Like
Yep.
if he's got
You just turn it on.
yeah, right. And he's young. He's young for a bit. Yeah.
Anything's good has got to have a price, right? You can't just give people free candy in your stories.
Well, here was my other question of the stuff that you had going on. I may have missed it. Did you have a direct goal in mind? Did you have a direct MacGuffin or something that we were shooting directly for, or was it just the different landscape of Mongo and everything?
In the end, I think so. What we kind of talked about is for him, his personal journey was he set all this stuff up when he was younger and didn't quite, he was younger, so he didn't understand the consequences and the ramifications of certain actions and setting up certain systems. And so then none of it worked. Like everybody was worse off than they were under Mongo. Kind of like the Soviet Union after the collapse. Like it became the order was draconian, but it was some order.
Right. Well, that's been an interesting thing we've been seeing a lot now lately. I know online, right? Which is like there was people, rightly, there people taking the piss a lot out of the new J.J. Abrams Star Wars films and the Rise of Skywalker, where it's like somehow the Emperor returned, and all this kind of people are like, man, what bullshit, and just 30 years later it's all falling apart and blah blah blah, and then now suddenly, in the past just 2 or 3 years it's like, oh right, yeah, okay, I guess that wasn't that real unrealistic.
Well,
we all laughed at trade routes being blocked.
Yeah, right. What's the saying? History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. Is that the?
Yep.
So I think those were all kind of the themes that we were dealing with, and for Flash is that his life spent back on Earth, which didn't suit him, was bureaucracies, and he worked for Dale's company as a
Dale's dad's job, basically.
Right. So it fundamentally became like a businessman and someone who had meetings and organized workers and ran a business and stuff and a company.
Was he hating this or was he into it?
I think it was unsatisfactory. After
go.
saving a world and being a hero, it was being an organizer was unsatisfactory.
Like Incredibles, being stuck in a desk job or whatever kind of thing.
Kinda, yeah.
I was talking about Greg Boyington, the World War II ace, who was a Marine pilot, was the greatest ace of World War II, Congressional Medal of Honor winner. And when he got out of the service in 1946, he never really found his footing after that. This was like, one of the guys who helped save the world and just had a very unsatisfactory life after that. So that was kind of my thought.
Well, then, Sean, how do you think about my yes and would be that there would be a direct, at least a start goal of something going on that one of the people on Mongo, has a giant nuke or something, and the war is escalating between them, or whatever. So Flash knows there's a ticking clock. There's something that he needs to fix first. Somebody's been captured, or there's a giant weapon that's going to blow everything up. Something like that to be that inciting incident going oh, I need to do this.
Right. It's been balkanized and everybody is fighting each other again, and everybody is trying to grab power, and someone comes to Earth and we need the magical Flash Gordon who saved us before, and now he's a 50-year-old desk jockey, but he can't wait to get there because this is who he was, really.
Yeah.
Right. I do like having
Sean, I'm assuming you've watched a lot more of the Buster Crab because, I really only know my Sam T. Jones Flash Gordon, backwards and forwards. And by the way, I'll be doing a one-man show next week, performing it all while singing Queen.
I've seen it. It's impeccable.
Dan and I
How dare you call that a one-man show? You are worth 20 people, Jones.
Yeah.
Dan and I had that shit running in our offices all the time, Steve.
Yeah.
But so something, in the Flash Gordon 1980 film directed by the guy who directed Get Carter, I believe,
Mm.
Mr. Earth is threatened. Is Earth threatened in the Buster Crabbe and other stuff too? Or
Yes,
is he
yeah.
just-
So the original Flash Gordon story, because I had my books out when we were doing it.
Oh,
is that-
I didn't know any of this. This stuff is amazing.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so Mongo is a rogue planet that is threatening Earth, and Dr. Zarkov is a crazy scientist who needs two people to help him guide this rocket ship because he's convinced there's an intelligence behind it doing it, and he kidnaps Flash and Dale, and takes them to Mongo, and they discover that indeed it is being controlled by Ming. And,
Pretty close to the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie actually was fairly close. It was kind of as I read it, it started, I think 33 to 41 was Raymond's run on it originally. And it was kind of like Europe in World War II, where Ming had everybody under control.
Yeah.
And he had his hand on everything, and they had to, Flash has to band all these different groups together to overthrow Ming. So the movie was actually pretty close to the story.
Okay. Well, because then it seems like, speaking to Scott's ticking clock and everything that you guys already said, where, right, like it hasn't turned out to just be, wonderful reconstruction of Europe after World War II or whatever. But it seems like there needs to be a threat to there needs to be a threat to Earth as well.
There doesn't, you don't think just coming to Flash and going, "You're our greatest hero, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope."
Well, I do think that's interesting, but I also
They had to save the princess.
I think threatening Earth and Dale, and I mean, one imagines that Flash and Dale have had kids also in the 30 years.
I think we were talking about that the kid thing can be a cheat sometimes, where it's just we're going to get Flash Gordon Jr.
Yeah, we decided not to go that route because that's the typical route. We're like, let's solve this problem a different way. But
Unless you make that child the thing that he has to save. What if instead of a child with Dale, maybe he had one of those impossible dalliance or whatever with the daughter of
Aura? That's
Yeah.
not bad.
yeah,
and then she crash lands on Earth and says, "You have to save our son."
I do like the adding of Earth also
Or the son
being
has
in danger.
become or the illegitimate son of Flash and Aura has become the Dark Prince that's being bad and doing bad.
Well,
I mean, that's kind of
very.
Han Solo and Kylo Ren, I guess.
Well, we were thinking Aura has taken over and is trying to hold things together. But if they had a kid, the kid could come and say, "I'm the child you never knew, and by the way, Mom is fucking everything up. You need to come
Right.
back."
Kind of a reverse Mordred.
Yeah,
Mom's
and it's a threat to him, and this woman that he kind of loved, he has gone. Maybe he wants to save her from herself or from her,
We also talked
bad
about
instincts.
like that. So Mongo was a rogue planet, which I don't know if any of you care or not, but apparently there's trillions of those out there, because as the solar system's spinning and they get this up, planets get kicked out all the time.
Poor Pluto.
Yeah.
Well, I know. Well, he got kicked out because he was small.
They're just being mean.
Yeah.
Stop picking on Mickey Mouse's dog.
Exactly. But I do think that maybe if Mongo is counter Earth and it's in the orbit, it didn't destroy Earth, but it's now in the solar system, right?
Sweet.
If someone takes over Mongo and then the first thing they'll do is invade Earth, it could be like, you need to stop this invasion before it gets
Yeah.
to England.
Cool.
That could be part of it.
Could we make Zarkov a robot AI thing?
Ooh. Well, I mean, yeah, let's talk about some of the other characters, right? So
Then
if we're
he's like
having-
Jarvis. He could start off just as a program that might be helping or whatever, do things and whatnot, and then actually maybe could have a physical body later or something like that.
Yeah, or he could be definitely.
When are we
a
starting this book?
robot-assisted-
This book is getting better by the second.
I know, right? I love the idea of an old, so 20 years later, how old is Zarkov? He's going to be 70.
Older, I think.
just to
Okay,
bring
so
in
but
a
here's
jar-
another thing that's a yes and for what Steve's talking about. Depending on how far you go with the magic pill of him being young again and that kind of stuff, it also might be really cool if he just had like Mongolian kind of Mongo tech or different things, or even stuff that Zarkov could have done now 20, 40 years later on, so that Flash could like take steroid shots or something,
Oh.
and then he could bulk up and be okay for a while, like the Hour Man thing or whatever. Again, giving that kind of thing, depending on how much sci-fi we want to put in there. But I think it should have tons of sci-fi.
As
Yeah.
far as I know, the last image of Raymond's run before he went in the Marine Corps was Flash, Dale, and Zarkov loading a rocket ship full of Mongo tech to come back and fight World War II, to fight the Nazis.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
so
That's
Zarkov
awesome.
brought a bunch of stuff back.
So we could really even kind of play with what does Earth look like at that point, because that's a different timeline.
That's right. It could be that all this Mongo tech, has affected what the world now looks like 30 years ago, or 30 years later.
Oh, you know what? That's actually a really interesting thread. So if the Mongo tech has affected Earth, and now Earth is fundamentally another territory of Mongo. So whoever's taking over could think like, oh yeah, now Earth is also part of.
You stole all our stuff. We want it back. And by the way, we're going to take you over now too.
Or even by like we now like when Monsanto has modified seeds go into someone else's crop, and now they own that crop, like that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Or
what if
it's that Zarkov has used all this tech to like make Earth way more sci-fi and better and all this stuff, but it turns out that there's a back door in Mongo tech that Zarkov wasn't aware of, and so when Mongo shows up, in our solar system, now they can use and subvert all of the tech that's on Earth. So Earth has to if Earth is going to be free itself from now the fact that it's being taken over by Mongo, you'll have to destroy all this kind of fake advancement that Zarkov used, and use it as kind of a commentary on the position we find ourselves in now, where
I love
that.
What if all that tech is now harming Earth? Like it uses, they have Mongo data centers that are using up all the water and stuff like that, and Flash now has to go back to Mongo and figure out how to get out of this shit. And
right, exactly. Because
the people on Earth who are running it are like these tech bros that are sitting in the G7 meetings now.
Right. And then you've got people here. You have people sort of standing in for the billionaire class who are like, oh no, we're happy to just let Mongo in because we want to, and that they're have now been able to hijack their old tech, and now it's like Zarkov. It's like, all right, now we have to weed out all this technology that you've allowed to weed into our
and the tech bros don't mind selling us out because they think they're going to move to Mars.
Right.
Exactly.
What if
and
what if Flash, Dale, and Zarkov weren't the only people who left Mongo and came to Earth, and there are Mongo people who have become the tech bros on Earth?
Love it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And now they're, they don't care about Earth.
It's a comforting thought rather than the reality.
That there are just reality of other human beings fucking us over.
But we'd like our fiction to be allegorical.
Right. But I think we're on to, so one of the reasons I think Sean and I have been having fun doing this is the idea. So yesterday a friend of mine asked me, he's like, so, what are you doing to pass on the skills of comics? And, do you have a mentor program? Do you want to doing other things? I'm like, I don't have any of those things. And a lot of artists, I learned a ton from Jim Lee and other artists, just not necessarily as a mentor, but I worked with him for a little while or for him. And he shared a ton of information. And every time I always met an older comic book artist, that they told me about their process and how they did stuff, and all that stuff was super helpful. But there really isn't as much of that one-on-one personal guidance where you get to understand. I mean, the first time I saw Jim draw an actual page was the first time I'd seen anyone really like sit down, draw a page. And by watching that process, I'm like, oh, I could do that. That's replicatable. I can sort of understand that process.
Yeah.
Um,
There are more
by-
schools now that teach the classes than when we broke in. There were almost
Right.
no schools that taught that
Yeah.
stuff back then.
Yeah.
At least there's a handful now.
Yes, Scott, I agree with you, but sadly, I think that a lot of times they're as much as teachers are trying to do that process, that the kids or students are just tracing. They're not
Oh,
learning
agreed.
the skills. Right.
Oh yeah. No, there's always tons of flaws in the process.
Yeah, listen, having been in the belly of, I mean, I taught at a university for 10 years, and I found out that what they really don't want is somebody who has actually done the work teaching. That terrifies them, so.
Why is that? Because you have different kind of demands on the students?
Because they're afraid that they're going to be shown up, that they don't really know what they're talking about. At least in theater and film, that's what it was. I mean,
Oh, wow.
Cubert School has real working people, but they were just like, you can't teach our kids this way. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, you're making it hard for them. Right. Wait until they're out.
Yeah.
There's
Yep.
certainly, there are some great teachers in academia, but there's also a lot of people that sometimes that chose the role of academia, and so are threatened by people that have done the real thing in the real world. And I mean, because I studied acting and theater in college, and I remember my two favorite teachers, like one was just 6 or 7 years older than most of us. Like when we, maybe he was in his late 20s and his partner was maybe in his early 30s. And something I super duper appreciated about all the classes with those teachers was they were really trying to teach us acting as a practicable skill that we could go out and do, because they were, working in plays and doing, they were working theater and commercial actors that were trying to teach us like transferable skills. And then one of our other teachers that was lovely, was probably in his late 50s or early 60s or mid 60s, and was teaching us like, this stuff that was going on in communist Poland, where it's like people were doing scenes like running around in circles and clapping their hands, and where it was like, now I don't mind, like it's kind of an interesting life experience thing to have had as part of, but at the time I found it really confusing in a way too, because it was like, what on earth does this have to do with? And there can definitely be a great tendency for sometimes academia to get very theoretical and not very like, well, how do you, because certain aspects of stuff that you're learning and art, it's like with art and is like, it should almost be more like a trade school, in my opinion. Like, look, this is, here's how
when I went to take acting classes in LA, they asked me at this school, what kind of classes I was interested in. And I said, I'm not really sure, but the next person that asked me to be a piece of bacon frying is going to get hurt.
Well, then when I worked for Sean on Batman Beyond and Justice League, I think, then I had been at 10 years or so since I'd been in college. I ended up going back to acting a bit in LA, and I really grateful that I did a little bit of Meisner technique, which is actually pretty useful, I think. And then I found a teacher that I thought was like, their whole process was just trying to prepare you for the realities of so it's like every acting class I'd ever been in my entire life until I started studying with this one teacher, you do a scene, we take a scene, you'd get a scene partner, you'd rehearse it out of class, you'd work on it forever and ever and ever, you do it in front of the class. And if it simulated anything, it simulated like you being in a play where you were like working on that, had like a month's, plural long rehearsal process. And something I really, really loved and enjoyed about this class that I got into was it would be, you do a new scene every week. You and your partner would learn, you do work with a different partner every week. You didn't rehearse at all. And you just learned, you went in and learned the lines and did it, because it replicated far more of
TV. That's what TV is. Exactly
right. If you're going out and auditioning, and then if you're booking any kind of TV stuff, unless you actually get a job of series regular, like, right, you're gonna have to come in have your shit totally together and know what you're doing. Be super open to whatever you're going to get from the casting person that you're reading with or the actor that you're showing up with on set. You can't practice that stuff. You can't rehearse it. You can't control it. And you've got to be able to be good like right away.
Yep.
And when you're rehearsing a play, everyone's always sort of like brilliant right at the beginning when they audition and like that first read through. And then everyone sucks for a while. And then there's this sort of process of rediscovery, ideally. And then it all gets good when you put it up on its feet after the rehearsal process. But in film and TV, particularly TV or whatever, you want them to be rolling camera on the first time you did it, because there's going to be all this magic that happens the first time, and that's what you want to capture, because there isn't going to be this long process where you get to rediscover it.
Right.
I guess, unless you're doing one of those 80 takes people, which I would hate. I would think.
I've heard of the directors that do that, though, that while the actors are practicing, they're silently telling their cameramen, roll.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's catch this and see if we get something really good right now.
Well, I mean, I don't know what Sean's experience after the Twilight movie you just did, but especially now on video, I would think capture everything. You know, if you're not paying for film anymore, then you should definitely shoot every rehearsal, because someone might do something brilliant that's completely usable.
We didn't rehearse. We didn't rehearse at all. I talked to people about the parts. I talked about what to do. The weirdest thing about the Twilight movie was the scenes that I was in. There was a monitor right off screen.
Yikes.
That I could watch, so I could. I
So
had
you knew where you were.
I had my brain cut in half. With the director half was watching that, and the actor half was doing the scene. And nobody's picked up on it, so I guess I did it okay.
Wait, you were watching yourself in the scene? Not even like after?
No.
That's insane. I directed myself in one thing, and I can imagine maybe going in and watching myself after, but I can't even conceive of doing it at the same time.
It was bizarre. I wouldn't do it again. My favorite day of shooting on that was the second day, where I had no parts, and it was just all the interviews, and I got to just sit behind the camera and say action, a little bit louder. You know, that was the best part. So what do we think? Does he need a ticking clock? Does he need Earth in trouble?
I think
that's part of it, but I kind of like the idea that Mongo people have infiltrated Earth and have become tech bros.
Oh, maybe that's how he finds out. Maybe that's how he finds out that there's trouble on Mongo in the first place.
Yeah.
Is he maybe some tech bros try and take over Dale's business, and that's when he realizes that there's something not quite right about everything.
Right.
Or maybe Dale finds it.
We were kind of thinking Dale might be dead.
What about the idea that he and Dale never had children, and he finds
you kind of glossed over that. I didn't hear that earlier.
Because we thought there might be an aura thing that happens later on.
Who killed Spock? What's going on?
Yeah. We was just put a pin in it, Scott. We'll put a pin in it.
What's this aura thing? She's going to show up as a ghost?
No. Aura is taken over from Ming.
Oh, the daughter. Yeah,
the daughter. And so we thought that maybe
she's not ruling the entire planet. She's just ruling Mongo City and trying to take it over the entire planet.
Right.
So you're saying like that's going to be a possible relationship in the future, whatever. So you didn't want Dale around to mess with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. But if he finds out that he had a child with Aura on top, that's like another layer of coolness.
Yeah. Especially if it wasn't consensual.
Oh, what? No, what, Scott?
I mean,
no, not consensual. We know she's devious. She's Ming's daughter.
All right.
So
I mean,
she's
I
Talia al
can
Ghul
be
now.
convinced
Batman has everything in his utility belt except a condom.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve. You can be convinced.
I can be convinced to kill Dale, but I actually think if we're playing with a lot of these different themes, and especially if it turns out that like I'm more attracted to the idea of like, what if Dale and Flash did have a kid that they lost at a certain age, and losing that kid led them to separate and break up. So that Dale's still alive in a complicated emotional part of the picture, it leaves Flash open to potentially have something going on with
Aura.
But then finding out you have a child that you never knew that you had after you've already lost a child, I feel like is potentially an interesting and more fertile thing to explore. And it just gives, like, if we're going with like, hey, this is about someone that's older and that's a like having a happily ever after that didn't turn out well. Is an interesting thing to explore too, as opposed to just, I mean, you can kill Dale, but I worry it's a little bit like a killing Newt and Hicks, where at Alien 3, where people are there will be people that are big fans of Dale. I think Scott and I are.
Are you talking killing Newt in Aliens 3 or killing Newt in Lonesome Dove? Which one?
Aliens 3.
Okay,
Aliens
thank you.
Okay. Well, so this is my first, like, I love where we're going. I love all this stuff, and I do think that this is one of the things that part of the process I find the most fun is the what if stage. But I do think that it's also a very dangerous stage when you can start putting hats on hats, because like if we just
what does hats on hats mean, Jeff?
Hats on a hat. Well, so is it going to be exactly? Is it going to be Flash Gordon and his story? And is he going to have a supporting cast, or is it going to be his unknown kid story where he's a supporting cast? Like, what is the way that Lord of the Rings works great, but they made the movies Hobbit centric, right? Like, if you're telling the bigger story, it's great, but like who's going to be the focus?
I think it's him. I think he should be the focus.
And I think he should be the focus, but I think he needs his support.
I don't think we've met
people, whether it's new people or it's the original ones. That's all up for play and debate and see where it goes.
And in the Raymond book, there was Prince Baron, who was basically Robin Hood in Aboria. There was Thun the Lion Man. There was Wotan the Hawk Man. There were all this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, definitely revisiting all those characters is a must, right? Like what's happened in 20 years.
Yeah, I understand your concerns, Jeff, but I think everything, most of what we've come up with, I think we can still keep the focus on Flash while, even if we're deciding that he has a child with Aura that he didn't know about, and even if Dale is still alive, and I don't think all the people you guys just mentioned, I think Flash still shined at the center of a very crowded universe before. I think he still can now.
Yep. And all this stuff feeds into him and feeds into his narrative.
Totally. Yeah.
Look, there's still a white man at the center of this story. So we don't need
I'm not saying that. I'm saying still a white old man that I can relate to. That's what I'm saying.
Can we make him part Native American so I have something to grab onto here?
Right. Oh yeah, but I do think that I love this part where you're like, well, what if we did this, and how do we swing that one? I do think that that's one of the most fun of telling stories. I have a tendency, as Steve and Scott know, to go too big sometimes, to get too complicated.
The story grows and grows and grows
and grows, and it escalates. And sometimes I have a tendency to lose focus when you're like, oh, well, what about this?
So what's the problem with that? Like, it's too big? Because you were talking about continuing like a 12 issues a year of stuff. There's a lot of pages to fill in, a lot of stories
absolutely
in there.
But I think one of the things, I mean, I love the X-Men, right? But when Fabian took over the X-Men, he told me his secret to writing the X-Men was just finding an unfinished Chris Claremont subplot and picking that back up. So I do think that is
Fabian's a very smart man.
He's a very smart man.
It's genius.
And so, but I do think that is that can be a hazard sometimes with an ongoing comic. You're like, well, now, which dimension is this? Which timeline is this? Do I like? So I like a book that has all the worlds, but I also like knowing where I'm at, in a particular storyline.
And again,
Can I-
that idea that there's a whole other world of problems to fix and it's only Flash can do and all those things. I think all of that stuff is great.
Yeah.
It's just if you're going to tell somebody they're going to go see this new Flash movie or a comic book or whatever it is, and they go, "Oh, what it's about? Oh, it's about him going and kind of fixing this other world." They're going to glaze over.
Right,
If you give them, I think, at least something within that that's a little more personal, or at least a direct thing that they can go, "Oh, this is where he's going to destroy this bomb, or this is where he's going to do this."
right,
Then
right.
you can add all the other stuff in. As long as there's that simple see-through line to be like the top line, then you can build layers and layers and layers of all the complex stuff.
Well, I mean, I think not that this is the only, but I think there is some good stuff in some of that Blake Snyder book stuff, and one of the things he talks about is like things being primal, and so if there's a threat to the Earth, if there's a threat to his child, if there's threats to things that mean something to this character and something that we can relate to as well, I think that's good than just the quote unquote the esoteric of like Mongo is threatened, like
Right.
it's like we should.
Well, but there's a personal thing to it too, is that he gets the call to adventure. God help me for quoting Joseph Campbell. But the call to adventure is the call to Flash. It's the call to Flash finding out who he really is. That
Right.
he's going on that one last. It's the Wild Bunch. He's going on that one last great adventure. And it's him. It's who his real destiny is to be the guy who pulls this planet together.
But if he hates his world already, that he's stuck at a desk job or something like that, and things aren't going that great for him, that he does feel it. But the call to adventure has to be reputed. That it has to be negated once or twice or whatever. Luke doesn't say yes the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of the great heroes don't say yes the first time.
Right.
They have to be shown that there's no other way.
But wouldn't it be
Supposed to be
cool if he got there and at the end of the first issue is him going, I can't do this anymore. This is scary.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's that's instead of it's a personal choice on his part as opposed to something that's forced on him.
Oh yeah,
he's
yeah.
scared.
No, I still want it to be his choice.
Yeah, he's scared.
Yeah.
Scared for a change because he sees more. He's staring at mortality in a different way.
Well, what's the
And maybe he
what's
gets
the,
shot in the shoulder.
Oh yeah, or ages. Yeah, exactly. That so hurts. But also, I love the idea that his first goal is a personal goal, right? Something that he wants, but then he realizes what he needs to do is much bigger. And that's the actual storyline. Is he right?
Yeah.
He goes to
That's how we get 50 issues out of it.
Yeah, he goes to save himself, to save Mongo, to be Flash Gordon again, but realizes, oh shit, this is actually I have to save the Earth. The scale the
And you've got
Look.
all those countries basically to start talking to, negotiating, working with, seeing
Right.
how you can get them
Saving the
to.
other- He saves himself.
he saves
Well,
himself.
and one of the things Jeff and I talked about is that there are places who don't want to have anything to do with him because
Yeah.
we had regular food when Ming was in charge and you came and
Right.
fucked everything up. Or
Right.
you're
Now
this
all we've been
sort of
now all
you're
we've been
this thick
doing
old
is eating Soylent Green.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
you're this thick older guy with a receding hairline. You're not Flash Gordon.
And also, fuck Flash Gordon.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Like-
That's right. Well, it's throwing the shoe at George W. Bush.
Yeah.
in Iraq. Yeah, you
Right.
saved us. Fuck you.
Yeah, 2 times.
Yeah.
Soylent cow pies are made out of people.
Yeah.
So
Oh, look at that one,
we're gonna-
Scott. I love that one. Beyond. Hang on a second. Let's go ahead and see that a little bit tighter.
We saw it. It's all right. We're
That's
just
me.
showing one.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, that's a great cover.
Isn't that
Smartly
written
done.
by the late great Dwayne McDuffie?
Sure was.
Yeah. Dwayne was awesome.
He was so much fun to work with.
I can't tell you the amount of times I hear something and I pick up the phone to call him.
Oh,
The day he died, I was at the gym and I thought of something. I started laughing, and I can't wait to get home and call Dwayne and tell him this. And I got home and I signed on the computer and I found out he was dead.
we should find our favorite Dwayne McDuffie thing and talk about.
We should do we should definitely do a whole episode just dedicated to Dwayne.
Yeah.
He was really great. He was really, really great. So we're about an hour. I think we've added.
We've
we've added some complexity and figured out some ticking. I think every story needs a ticking clock, right? There has to be some sort of
Scott and I have fixed the kernel, the tiny kernel that you guys.
The keystone that was. By the way, just to reiterate what we're doing here, this is very much how the process of a lot of things that I feel it goes when it's in a healthy environment. When we started the Beyond project, Dwayne had already had a bunch of it already preset. It had to be adjusted. They changed the number of issues. He was, I think he was supposed to do like 12 issues at the start. Then when I got brought on board, then all of a sudden they told him, no, it's 6 issues, whatever. But the point is, even as we started this, there were still certain key things that Dwayne wasn't sure about. So we talked about them. And he was open to ideas. And I said, oh, okay. So it was a lot of the yes ands. It was hardly any of the no buts.
Yep.
We just went, oh, that's cool. What if we did this? Oh, we did that. What if we had this kind of character? And Dwayne's like, I know the guy we're going to use. This is great.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
That is like I said, this is my favorite part. Or when you're building a story, when you're improving and sort of carving out a story, I think it feels the most creative because you're building a universe and everything's possible at this stage. I always love that.
Well, it's collaboration, right? It's not me writing a script and handing it to you and some editor going, no, it has to be what's here.
Right.
It's people working together this is comics to me, and this is TV, and this is movies too, is collaboration like this.
I mean, I do think that one of the reasons that the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and all of his Buscema and all those guys is that there's so much juice in those early comics is because Stan gave him an idea and let him run with it, and then made
took all the credit after.
Well, I mean, yeah, but then added dealt with what was there, right? Didn't send stuff back. Didn't he's like, oh no, I'll add to this. I'll plus this.
Right, exactly. He's right. It's like, we're not redoing these finished pages. Let me just add some. Let me add some catchy dialogue to this.
Right.
Yeah.
That stuff is great. Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, comics are still great, obviously, and there's some amazing comics being done. But when we were kids, there was a consistent spontaneity almost to the comics because of the speed they were being done that I felt had a lot of energy, and it was one of the things that always kept you coming back because you're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yep.
But you just don't know.
Do you remember stuff like the I don't know if you guys remember that whole Teen Titans run where they gave up their powers, or the Wonder Woman run where she gave up her powers, and it was just, as a little kid getting those off the stands, it was like, we're just going to take something, and those guys were just taking ideas and running with it. Like, we need Wonder Woman's dying. What are we going to do? We're going to take her powers away. We're going to make her Diana Rigg.
Oh yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things that we're talking about with all this, that it's all like naturally, we've been talking about it as organically as possible, ways to adjust, to change, to flip things to whatever about Flash Gordon stuff. But we're not just going through a checklist going like, did we include this type of person? Yep. This is trending right now. Should we put in this? And those guys, you have to talk about it organically. Those other things in the checklist could come into play. Sure, of course.
Right.
Especially when you're talking in broad strokes of a girlfriend or this kind of character or the bad person or the good, all that stuff is involved. But it's got to happen organically. And that's one of the tricks with when you add a guy who's Steve Ditko or whoever that's going to plot that story. Steve's not going to plot it like Stan Lee would have plotted it, or like half the guys before him going on. It would have had that weird tilt of Ditko-ness going on, or the same thing with Kirby. I was just reading some of those Mr. Miracles again, and you're like, you have no clue where the next issue is going to go. Yep. It is bouncing off the walls so hard. It is, and I think that's one of the real detriments right now in a lot of modern comics, honestly, is that they're all products. They're all stamped and done for, so they can't really change. They can't really grow that much. They can't be bouncing off the walls. They can't, and it's not about it being just some sort of rip and invert your expectations kind of knee-jerk reaction to stuff. It's like, oh, well, what haven't we tried? What might be really fun? Let's shoot around some ideas, and let's take, the Flash or Iron Man or whatever, and let's push it this way, and then talk it through and make it organic. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure a lot of those people are trying, but I feel like the companies and everybody are so involved these days that it stagnates all that. So it's like it's all written by the same person.
It's too much of a commodity and not enough of a project. It's movies and TV are the same way. It's like, it's this, we've got this NCIS template. We're just going to clone that several times, and but that works. But then they move the goalpost. Like, they're talking about Tracker being the biggest hit on broadcast TV, and it's like being watched by fewer people than watched Pinky and the Brain when it got canceled.
They keep saying that stuff always works, but I'm like, but it always works with a diminishing return. Every time you go around that circle around again, 50 people already saw that thing. So they're not going to watch it again if they've seen it 10, 20 times. Right. And it doesn't matter whether it's, Harrison Ford or if it's this guy or that guy or whatever it is. If they're doing the same thing again and again and again, you got to change it up. That's why we got excited about Dark Knight Returns. That's why we got excited about Wrath of Khan, because that was a version of those characters and stuff going on. We'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen were 40 years ago, and they're still mining that same strip now.
Yep. So yeah, we need to write a new Dark Knight, a new Watchmen, so they can mine that 40 years from now.
And we're the angry old men who can do it. God damn it.
We are the angry old men that can do it. We have the skills. All right, fellas. That was great.
It was great.
We've done our damage.
Yeah. I like hashing this out, kind of a process thing. It's fun to imagine and do some drawings and sketches and whatnot. Hey Scott, can I see your last that Hulk drawing?
Flash Gordon.
Oh, cool.
There's some Hulk.
Smartly done.
Love it.
Kind of a little Bernie Hulk, little burnish.
Yeah, sure.
Love it. Nice. His hair is so hard to draw.
I've said it before, and like Scott has he's taken all the
go on.
He said it like he's taken all the right Infantino ideas for Flash and turned them into something new that's him. It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And again, that's one of those things that comes from sideways, just like the discussions we're talking about. I was never a huge Infantino guy. I was never even that big of a Flash guy when I was a kid. I liked the Flash, and I liked him in Justice League, and I did buy some of the books. And when Kid Flash was around, Wally West was around, all that stuff. But yes, my style that I was developing at that time, or that I've developed all these years now, wound up meshing in that way. To me, it's kind of like Simonson on Thor, that mashes with Kirby, mashes even with the Coletta scratchy inks and stuff like that.
Right.
It really seems apparently strong for that character, for what it, accidentally on purpose, however it happens.
Talk about reinventing a character. That run we should study that one to see the beats that we like that really work, because he reinvented Thor in a way but without changing him.
Yep.
But just added to just made
he
him
did
more
change some
relatable.
stuff. He was the one that got rid of Donald Blake.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I remember, God, that panel with him standing up there shouting at the storm. Oh, so
that
good.
first issue is so strong. No wonder all of us just lost our minds on that.
Well, I think it's kind of funny, I just realized that one of the reasons that trying to revamp a character, or how would I do this? What would I do? It's always inspired by that Thor run or other runs like that, where you're like, oh, so there's more. I can put a stamp on these characters. Like I could do something that adds to this legacy.
Yeah,
and it's looking at who the character is, what is important to that character, and not trying to graph your own stuff on top of it. It's using the character. It's kind of like when you're an actor. There's a whose quote is it? You don't become the character. You turn yourself into the character. You find out what you and that character are similar, and then that's where the character comes from.
Jonesy, who said that?
Stanislav.
I think it was
Stanislavski.
Stanislav's a guy I know. Just a friend.
I think it was Lucille Ball, actually.
I think it was Duvall, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're very similar.
Yeah.
Same hair.
He did this great eating chocolate scene that nobody talks about anymore.
Duvall, it was good.
So did she.
See?
Yeah.
I mean, she was in a factory, but heavily involved chocolate.
Yeah.
All right.
fellas.
Toodles.
Thank you, everybody, for who stuck with us. We'll put some more stuff up online this week.
For
Excellent.
everyone that stuck around for an extra 9 minutes, we'll deduct 9 minutes from our next show. So don't worry.
Okay.